Hi folks, happy spooky season. Now we've got the end of the season coming up. We've got the start of the Mortarion season, spoilers, coming up, and we have kind of a unique opportunity to look at the buffed and nerfed warlords for the season, and then also to do some PvP with them as well. So I was really excited to sit down. I've got two articles to run through. I want to do one ladder game with each of the warlords that was buffed this season, and then I want to do at least one PvP game with each too, and we'll see how this goes. So first, Plague and Rot, a Halloween special. Greetings, bearers of the plague. The air grows thick, the nights darker, and the stench of decay carries on the wind. As Halloween approaches, Warhammer Combat Cards is giving itself over to the pestilent blessings of Nurgle. It's the season for rot, ruin, and grim celebration. And something foul stirs on the horizon. When I was reading this, I didn't want to make the call that it's Mortarion, the final of the demon Primarchs that we have in the game so far, coming to Warhammer Combat Cards. That's officially been called at this point, so we'll get there. Where others bring fire and steel, Nurgle's chosen spread despair with every step. Entire worlds had brought it under their march. Crops withered, rivers turned to sludge, and cities reduced to moldering husks. The Death Guard, ever resilient, stride on unbothered, their lungs filled with pestilent smog and their bodies made strong by the very diseases they carry. Legends speak of a figure wreathed in smog and shadow, a harbinger of plague whose weapon cuts as surely as disease itself. As the veil thins this October, keep your decks sharp, for ancient power is ready to march once more. And then we've got a very Nurgle QA with Harry, the lead designer Harry. To mark the spooky season, we sat down with our very own designer Harry to dive into the putrid world of Nurgle. From cursed office supplies to questionable sandwiches, nothing was off the table. Here's Harry's take on some truly disgusting and perfectly Nurgle questions. If you had to design a scratch and sniff Nurgle card, what would it smell like? And I don't even want to go there, but here we go. Oh God, why would that even be a question? That said, as a kid, I did buy those weird toys that all smelled terrible as a gimmick called stink blasters. So maybe there is a market there. I guess a marketable one that wouldn't get you arrested would be something like used gym socks. Oh God, that wouldn't get you arrested. That have been left in a sports bag under your bed for half a year. This is a weird question. I've heard from somewhere that a starfish, the sea mollusk. A starfish is like the worst smelling thing as it breaks down. So if you ever want to get like a Nurgle smell, starfish. It's also appropriately chaosy looking. What's the most disgusting food combo you secretly love and would Nurgle approve? So I've been told this is disgusting, but it's pretty great. Marmite and strawberry jam. Marmite being the Australian like yeast leftover stuff that I know there's a term for it in Australia. I don't remember what it is. Strawberry jam sandwiches turns into this awesome sweet and sour spread. Oh, it's not for everyone, but I would definitely recommend it. Would Nurgle approve? They're pretty tame ingredients, but Marmite is almost all yeast, so there has to be some nod of approval in there somewhere. If you let it sit for like a week, I'm sure it would be properly Nurgly. If you were blessed by Nurgle for a day, what gift would you want? Slimy tentacle, unstoppable immune system. So with all of his gifts, he doesn't really make anything better. It just stops you from caring. So I guess being 100% stress-free for a day sounds pretty good. It's not bad. Just without adding all the other things that come with it would normally be stressing you out, like your eyes falling out or something. Ugh. If you could curse one office with Nurgle's rot, what would it be? Oh, excuse me. Office object. Printer, coffee machine, stapler. Harry goes, why? What? I mean, if the goal here was infect as many people as possible, probably the fridge. Oh, that covers milk, soft drinks, and lunches. Pretty good spread. If it was as few people as possible, I'd probably go for my desk. I work from home 99% of the time, so no one should be messing with my desk, and if they are, they deserve it. If you could add one ridiculous Nurgle unit to the game, what would it be? Are we talking real or made up? A real one that will never make it would probably be the Nurgle Toad Dragon, which is kind of what it sounds like. Smash a dragon and a toad together and add Nurgle sauce on top. It did technically have a model in 3rd edition Warhammer Fantasy, but it has a very cool model in Warhammer Total War, and I don't see any reason why it wouldn't exist in 40k. 40k doesn't have enough dragons for sure, and no, Fuegan doesn't count at all. Halloween is a time for shadows and fear.
But in the 41st millennium, fear takes the form of disease, decay, and despair. Something ancient stirs this October, and when the rot blooms and blossoms in full, no battlefield will remain untainted. Yuck. For Chaos Unit to add, I would 100% go Plague Toads. If we could have a Chaos variant of our boy, let's go here, because we've got a really good one. This guy right here. This is Kerboom. He's epic, he's got Death Blow and Furious Charge. What if it was Poison and Furious Charge and it was Plague Toads? I played Warhammer Bolt Gun not too long ago, and that definitely got me thinking about Plague Toads. And we don't have those in the game, and that would be a great kind of Nurgle addition to the lineup. And Death Blow, well, excuse me, I said it wrong. Not Furious Charge. Death Blow and Poison. So Poison primary trait, Death Blow secondary trait would be awesome. I think that would be really Nurgly, and that would be very appropriate with Glogothrobs. So Plague Toads, primary trait Poison, secondary trait Death Blow. I got it that time. Okay, and now for the next one, we're going to go ahead and take a quick pause to go ahead and look at the changes from the balance patch. So we saw 4 Warlords buffed. Excuse me, so 3 Warlords nerfed and 3 buffed. And the nerfed one, of course, is, well, yeah, is going to be Drago, or was Drago. Um, no, he is nerfed now. Who was nerfed last season? Angron. Angron was nerfed last season, yes. So his regenerative health is less, excuse me. So it's 5% for every card destroyed in melee instead of 10% destroyed every card destroyed in melee. Uh, we'll get to Drago. But then the buffed warlords are in reverse order. We've got Azrael. Every time you select an attack type that is different from the one you selected in the previous turn, your deployed cards receive plus 40% boost to their attack stats. Used to be 20, I believe, and now it's 40, which is a massive buff, and you really feel that. And then next up we had, where are you, buddy? Well, we can bounce around a little bit. Next up we had the Mask, whose ability is, while friendly cards are above 25% wounds, they attack first when defending. And that was a more challenging margin. I want to say it was 40% or it was higher. So now the attack back is far more consistent. And then next we had old Red himself. Yeah, here you are. Commander Farsight. When your last card is deployed, your deployed cards heal to full wounds and your melee attack readies 10 times. Used to be 5 times. Now that ready is absolutely massive, but it doesn't fundamentally change it very much. Yes, and we will talk about all 3 of those, and we're actually going to play with them in the ladder as well as Lady Malice herself, and then in PvP as well, if you bear with me. But let's go to the balance changes for this season. Now, for those, I played all 4 of them in the ladder this season, in the competitive ladder, in ranked, that is, and then also in PvP a little bit, and I have a lot of thoughts on all 4 of them. Let's see, so developer update, balance changes, and Mortarion season, starting Monday, October 27th. Greetings, citizens. From the despair of Komara for the Malice season we just came out of, we head into the joyful gardens of Nurgle. This season brings the 4th and final Demon Primarch to the combat cards roster. And then we're going to look at the seasonal balance changes. The season brings a good breadth of warlords to be adjusted, and another recent Supreme Commander coming out of the gates a little too hard. Spoilers. Let's dive in for the details. So we've got Uthar the Destined, position 69th, win rate 71.3, which is strong, and then a play rate of 0.5%. And his trait is Eye of the Ancestors. Whenever an enemy card destroys a friendly card, it gains a judgment token. For each judgment token a card has, it loses a minimum of 20, and this is going to go from 20 to 25%. So it's going to be plus 5% per judgment token of its starting wounds when it is damaged by any attack. A card may have up to 3 judgment tokens, so any hit at all of even 1 damage will deal up to 75% of that card's base starting health. Which is a powerful ability, but it's hard to finagle. There's a lot of talk about endless as a trait doesn't make sense in the faction of Votann, but it is something that would really make sense for Uthar's trait. Uthar has been struggling for a while and gets his second buff in recent times. Ironically, despite the increase in the Votann roster, his win and play rate has gone down. Part of this may be him being pushed out by Bury, now that he has settled into the roster more fully. Bury being the new Votann warlord from 2 seasons ago. And then we've got another one. This is an interesting one. And these all kind of make sense. They're fairly straightforward warlords whose trait is strong but unreliable, kind of hard to manage, hard to count on. And that kind of goes for most of the really tough or the really low scoring warlords. We're looking at Helbrecht here. High Marshal of the Black Templars, position 68th, win rate 72.7, and a play rate of 1%. So it's actually not a fairly high play rate, really. Mark of the Exemplar. Each time a friendly card kills an opponent with a melee attack, it gains a Mark of the Exemplar. For each Mark of the Exemplar, increase all attacks friendly cards by. It was 15%, as you see here. It's going to be 20%, so plus another 5% gain to that per Mark of the Exemplar, and those stack, and there is no cap to those. It's surprising to see Helbrecht at the bottom of the list, as he was once one of the dominant warlord picks for Space Marines. However, with a slow and gradual slide downwards, he's now nearly at the bottom. With mono attack preference being just melee, he faces the opposite challenge of Azrael, who wants multiple attack types. Last season, but with this buff and the strong Space Marine melee roster, he should bounce back just fine. And he's mono attack type, there's really strong melee in the game. I think what really hit him is that he used to have Furious Charge. So he could come in swinging, he could hit something, take something out, get Mark of the Exemplar, and then build that momentum to the end game. He's still good, but with so many more Supreme Commanders in the game and so many warlords that are difficult to kind of punch in the face in one shot, it's really challenging for him in the end game. I think the roster's really good, really strong, but I think the biggest challenge is Helbrecht himself standing toe to toe with the warlords in the game. And we may see this buff make that all the difference, or we may not. I don't know, we'll see. Next up, we have non-supreme Gosar. I always forget what points range he's in. He's relatively cheap. Where are you, buddy? There we go. Right next to Helbrecht. 60, position 67th, win rate of 73.7, and a play rate of 0.7%, and a stat increase plus 40 base wounds is what he's going to see, and then Infestation Swarm, which is his current rule. At the end of each player's turn, all your cards, including those in your deck, gain a plus 3 melee attack, and that's going to go from plus 3 to plus 6, so it's going to be doubled, which, if I recall, is actually closer to what it used to be kind of early on. I remember it was stronger, got nerfed, and never really came back up. Um, yeah, Little Gosar has been lagging some way behind, especially after the release of the Supreme Commander version, and he's finally reached the point where he needs a tune-up. This is a significant boost to his rule and should make him a very viable warlord choice again. And his trait's fine. Like, I think he's better. He's underrated, but I think his play rate went down because Tyranids have so many more exciting warlords now. Where before he was one of the key ones to reach for. Like before the Parasite came out, he was one of the big ones to reach for, especially when you wanted a cheaper option that was melee focused. Now Tyranids have so many more options, it's hard to reach for him, but this will help. That's a good buff. I think also getting the really big taunt that was added a couple seasons back to Tyranids will really help too. In that spore pod. What is it? This thing. This one. This becoming a taunt is really, really good with Gosar. Yeah, so I'm excited to see that. So Tyranids are always in a great spot. Let's see. Okay, and then we have our nerf is to Drygo himself. So at the start of the new season, position first, win rate 87.5%. So it's funny that the difference between like very low end win rate and very high end win rate is not that much. Because we're looking at Gosar with 73.7 versus 87.3. I mean, it's like a 13% increase in win rate, but it's still not as much as I would have expected, considering the roster of warlords, how many there are. Player at 1%. Touchable Purity. Whenever you play a friendly card, it makes an attack with its highest attack type at 100%. That's what it says now. That's going down to 75% of its, current attack stat. Additionally, friendly cards cannot take more than 60% of their base wounds as damage from a single attack. And if you have cards that have maximum Precision Shot, Warp Surge, or Furious Charge, they were attacking with their full value twice, stacking with Inspired Presence and anything else you had. And if you had any readies up, it was even higher. So like it was a devastating deck. And even a level 3 Supreme Commander, the Supreme Commander Kaldor Drago was by a mile like my strongest Space Marine Warlord. So yeah, the nerf was in order. I don't know that he totally broke the game, but I could certainly see him being outlandishly outside the power curve. So we got Kaldor has come out swinging and already hit the top of the list only a few months after release.
This is a massive climb, even outpacing Angron's rise. He had to be number 1 in a single season. Like, that's insane. Um, so we're stepping in to curtail that a bit. The protection rule preventing one-shot kills against his cards is staying, as is for the moment, so we are addressing the initial free attack. And yeah, this defensive one is hard to rate. That's one where you kind of forget about it, and then suddenly some of your cards live like a turn or two longer than you expected them to. It's certainly impactful, but not as impactful as the burst damage. So we're turning the offense down for now, and we'll continue to keep an eye on him. Finally, there have been some community rumblings about the viability or power of Lady Malice, and we'll talk about her in a bit, our latest warlord. Well, the stats are in for her first season, and she's boasting an impressive 80.4% win rate, which puts her straight in the middle of the pack at 34th place. For a brand new warlord, that's a really strong result and places her 4th out of the 7 Eldari warlords. And we will be playing a game as her in the latter too. Lady Malice, brand new. That's a really strong result in places here. Oh yeah, there you go. The feedback has been heard and we'll continue to keep tabs on her, but all in all, she's been a well-balanced new entry, and she's really interesting in PvP, and we'll talk about that in a second. With the Warlord changes done, let's have a quick look at the Bodyguard changes. And so here we're looking at plus 15 wounds, or Grumax, the Vox Shambler. We got our Poxwalker here, getting plus 5 melee, so he's actually going to be a little bit punchier. Okay. Yeah, there's not as much reason to take him as there was because you have other endless cards now, and in the 3 slot, you've got just kind of better options, or you can bump up to 5 and take the bigger taunt. And then we've got Growlx, the Sloppity Bile Piper, who's a card that was one of my go-tos for a long time, and now is not. But this guy here, getting plus 10 base melee. And you're going to see a significant buff here. That's going to be a really impressive change. Not as much as this one, though. Then we're on to Typhus, the Herald of Nurgle. Where are you, buddy? You're in the 30s. All right, this guy. Getting plus 10 base psychic. So right here, you're looking at a level 10 Typhus. Plus 10 is a significant buff, even if it wasn't base, and it is base. So it's going to increase by at least 1 level, 2 levels. So that'll be very impressive. And then plus 10 base melee. I really like Typhus, but I've been using him less and less, so this will definitely bring him back into my roster. Then we've got Grulgax, the Repugnant, minus 4 cost, going down to 35. Okay, interesting. And then we've got Bustus the Vile, the Death Guard Malignant Plaguecaster, who I do not have. He's got the flies. Yeah, there he is. Plus 10 wounds and plus 5 base psychic. Okay. And then we've got this guy. I really like to see this. Is this Black Legion ranged Legionnaire? And I know I can do the search. It just should not take long to find this guy because he is there. So he's getting plus 4 cost. Okay. Plus 20 wounds, plus 12 range, and plus 10 melee. So he's going to be 18 points, but he's going to be significantly more powerful base. Yeah, seems pretty good. He's going to be a really good all-rounder card, and I really like that because the thing for Black Legion is they should be represented by the Black Legion Legionnaires, who are galaxy-wide famous for being the Black Legion. So that would be really cool to have a mainstay, like mid-range, more expensive Black Legion card who can fit into like just a Bulwark baseline Black Legion deck. I like it. I like it. And then here's the cards out of the general pool. We've got Canis Rex, Big Knight, and we've got a bunch of veteran sergeants. We've got a bunch of stuff from the Ecclesiarchy. We've got, Fulgrim. Fulgrim, the Demon Primarch himself, is now going to be in the general pool. Got a bunch of Death Guard Plague Marines. And then this is interesting. So we're actually going to see several core art changes. I'm going to do the search on this one. So we're looking for Remiel. Did I misspell that? Yeah, he's not showing up. Okay. But we're seeing some actual chapter changes, and I want to be clear here that this isn't changing the chapter of an existing character. What it is doing is replacing an existing card with a character who's the same marine type, but a different name from a different chapter. So, Brother Remiel. Oh, he's already changed. There we go. So, Brother Remiel's been changed to Brother Mirren. So he's still a an aggressor, but he was a Dark Angels aggressor, and now he's an Imperial Fists aggressor with the little glow up on the model art there. And then we've got Gremius or Gemius. Oh, and that's why I couldn't find him. So let me look for the new name. This actually does look like his name did not change. Yep, there he is. So Veteran Brother Geminus. Yeah, okay, so he did change. He's a Stern Guard veteran. He went from Ultramarines to Imperial Fists. And then we have Lysander, and this is kind of a weirder one. Yeah, Lysander. So, and this is a little bit funny. So the article formatting is a little strange. It was easy to misread, but what we got here is Captain Lysander has new artwork. He has a new model. So this is an updated model for him. It's not changing him in any way, just from his artwork. And likewise for Vulcan Histon, he got updated artwork. But when I read it first, it looked like changing his chapter. Where are you, buddy? This one. So we got new artwork for Vulcan, which is, oh, he's so much cooler. That's really good. And then they did change the really long time, super popular Tech Marine. He was probably there on the screen the whole time, and I just wasn't seeing it. So Brother Jansen of the Ultramarines is now Brother Scorn of the Iron Hands. Which, I mean, he definitely never looked like a Ultramarine anyway, so this is cool. And that again is like a model update. He's got the new helmet. It's a sweet new helmet. Um, and then Fenric Redeye is now his on. And Tenar is now the Salamander aggressor. That one totally makes sense because Space Wolves didn't really need an aggressor, it didn't really make sense, and Salamanders makes a lot more sense, especially the Flamer aggressor. And then Chaplain Ergostus became Uzga. Yeah, there we go. So Chaplain Argostus is now changed from Raven Guard to White Scars. So now you got more of a thematic like White Scars Biker Squadron possible. And that sparked a couple people to be really upset. And now for me personally, I really actually appreciate that they're changing up some chapters a little bit, mixing things up. Because we have a very dominant Ultramarines, of course, which they're the poster children, makes sense. But I've always really wanted to be able to do your sub factions where it made sense. Like you can almost do a complete deck of Death Company now, which is a sub faction of a sub faction, and the more we can kind of spread that out and move stuff in a little bit so it is more, I don't know, like so you can have an Imperial Fists sub-faction. You can have an Imperial Fist deck, which has been really challenging for a while. I appreciate that that's being done a little bit. I know some people were upset seeing long-standing cards change, but it could also come down from GW that there were older models they didn't want to see represented, so they had to change them. But then you see the Chaplain is the exact same artwork and model. So I wonder what motivated some of those changes, but I personally I am excited about that. I don't mind it, whatever. But some people were very upset about that. Um, but yeah, I like it. In addition to that, there was also a general rework of keywords. So keywords, a significant number of cards that were bulky before have become infantry, which is sort of a sneaky shadow buff that wasn't referenced anywhere to anti-infantry. So any warlord or character that has anti-infantry is going to find themselves dramatically more effective in the near future here, especially since we're fighting against Nurgle, because a lot of the cards that changed from bulky to infantry were Nurgle Death Guard cards. So now I've talked a lot. Let's go ahead and play some games. I'm going to go ahead and reverse order here. We're going to start with the mask. And the mask got that change where the trait now triggers dramatically earlier, or it triggers longer. So you are still getting your attacks back for free if you have 25% or fewer wounds on your bodyguard. And the biggest advantage of the mask is still being cheap. Now, not as cheap as Glogothrox is still that, but the problem is the trait only triggers when your card is attacked by a card that has the same attack type and when it's has some ratio of wounds left. So it's really hard to predict and really hard to plan around and really hard to build a deck around. So I tinkered with a bunch of different things, tried to go all melee, tried to mix it up with all the different attack types. And what I ended up settling on is this. And shout out here to Verabaka, who actually played against this, I think, 4 times, and just sent me some feedback on it after he played against it. Um,
he suggested swapping some things around and making sure to include this healer instead of a bigger card that I had in there. So let's go ahead and play this and just kind of see this and talk about the Warlord. And this is a case where the trait was buffed, where the number changed. So the percentage of wounds you have left is now lower. So it's much easier to reliably get your attack back, but you're still, it's still very inconsistent when you get your attack back just because it depends on the enemy attack type. It depends on a lot of different factors, and it's really challenging to predict that. So this is Dark Cells. We're using the mask. We're going to go ahead and see how this goes for one game. I don't want to do too much of this because we have a lot to do. Um, and just see how this goes. And I may win this because the thing is that the mask can still hang in Dark Cells, especially if you have high level bodyguards, which I do. So you're already seeing me do pretty well here. This is against Akaran, but I do have some pretty significant advantages here. Um, just that I've got much higher level bodyguards, that being the biggest one. And also, you can game the AI a little bit. You can't predict what attack they're going to do any given time. But what you can do is be pretty sure to discourage them from making certain moves. So, like in a lot of these cases, he doesn't want to do melee because I've got so much stronger melee cards. Excuse me, sorry. And having that level of like powerful melee cards is a big advantage to discourage the attack types that would not favor me. So the option for the AI is either to take an unfavored attack, which it will almost never do, or hit me in a way that really gives me a big advantage. And it may do both, just depending, but it's pretty easy to see how it can be good. But you can only play that so much because the AI is going to do what the AI is going to do. And if their deck doesn't have attack types that help you in any way, then it just doesn't matter. So you end up building, just like the Azrael problem, you end up building a deck either that totally ignores the special rule or tries really, really hard to pull off the special rule that rarely triggers, and certainly not in a way that's going to win you a game. And that's just a tough spot to be in. I like the concept, I like the rule, it's cool and interesting, but it's more of a gimmick rule than it is actually like a legitimate competitive rule. I did win that, but I lost a bunch of games with the mask playing this. So that was the first. We'll just take another quick look at the deck and talk a little bit briefly about why it works. So again, high level bodyguards is the number one thing. You can't get past that. It's just having high level cards is a huge advantage, especially with a cheap warlord. And a lot of what I did in this is just cram this deck full of my most powerful cards. You've got Karn, who just hits so hard 3 times because he's got Furious Charge, and then you almost certainly get one attack with him, and then he's got Death Blow, and you probably get more than that out of him too. But that's incredible utility even out of a 40-point card. And if you end up against a melee deck, the Mask's ability makes him just, it will not attack you. The AI will not attack you if you have Karn on the board in melee. Then you've got Lucius, who's just this tar pit and incredibly durable and does do melee as well. Your 2 cheap taunts that help kind of keep your other stuff alive. Medigay helps top everything off. In Dark Cells especially, I've talked about how important it is to be able to strip shields and do extra free damage, and so the Malignant Bladecaster is a must. And then having that extra durability with Felthus has been like an absolute mainstay, even at level 5. I get that one level or a couple levels up, and he's going to be really scary. But even at level 5, he does hold this deck up, and it was consistently beating Shaz O Tau decks, even though it's a pure melee deck. So this is an impressive deck. And then, of course, this guy here, Grannon, who's been getting a ton of my wild cards for a while. Just really strong. But again, the whole point here is just packing my strongest attack type with some of my best cards in a full deck with a couple utility pieces, the taunts and the poison, that are meant to kind of compensate for weaknesses in the Dark Cells. So it's just like I built a deck to compete in the Dark Cells. I didn't build a mask deck. It works, but still the mask. Next up, we're going to go ahead and talk about kind of a similar result here. We're going to go from like least to greatest in terms of changes here. And this is Commander Farsight. Now, I love Commander Farsight. He's just such a cool, interesting narrative character. And he was one of the first warlords that I consistently won with, and certainly the first Tau warlord I won with. And he's just cool. And I will say it again, I really want to play with the 8, which are his like elite Farsight Enclave's bodyguards. And you're not really supposed to run him with any ethereals because he's broken from the ethereal cast. But this guy's flavor text specifically says that he's currently on an expedition to the Farsight enclaves. Da 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 da. So it kind of makes sense to have him in there. Big thing about this deck, SR for Farsight, is again that when your final Tau card is played, when your final card in your deck is played, excuse me, your deployed cards heal the full wounds in your melee attack readies 10 times to be close to a max melee attack, even if you have 0 buffs to it to start, 0 readies. He's also got really phenomenal stats, good hit points, below 40, so he's outside of the big game hunter range, good melee, plus inspiring presence. He's good, and he's a melee warlord of Tau, which I really enjoy. And this deck really is built around a lot of utility, a little bit of kind of flexibility. It's supposed to die in a controlled way, so you can time your end game and actually use Farsight's special rules to actually end the game by getting a clutch heal and making sure that all your stuff goes. Now, it does work up to a point, and worked very, very well getting up into the Dark Cells. And I've got some decently high level bodyguards, which really helped. But up into the Dark Cells, you do find it struggles a lot, and I've lost a lot of games playing this deck. And so I'm much further, nowhere near the competitive level or the skulls rating I should be, as much as I've been playing the Dark Cells. And again, the goal here is to make the best use possible out of the special rule by making sure you're dying in a controlled way. So I'm playing this guy early to go ahead and tank some of these psychic attacks. Oof. And he also is going to hit back really, really hard because he has Berserk. It's not going to be enough though, and you can see that even with that pretty significant charge and a level 12 card, he's going to get his butt kicked here because of the Psionic Blast from this Greyfax, plus the buff from Dark Cells. And that's always a thing in any deck, but if you're going to run a Warlord in the Dark Cells, that Warlord has to be able to handle that, and Farsight doesn't really do anything to make that easier. Just because the special rule doesn't trigger until after you already lost cards. And as much as you can control that a little bit, not enough. Now we'll see if I can pull this one out. I think I can. One of the biggest risks here with Farsight is how tempting it is to play Farsight early because then you can play other cards to heal him up. But what I ended up doing a lot is I wound up doing that, and then I would lose Farsight. Whatever, like a bodyguard that I'd expected to die didn't, or Farsight himself took more damage than I expected outright. Uh, so that was the thing. We're gonna do the heal. We've got a taunt on the table, and I should be able to clear this guy in the middle. And this is the thing, where like I need this hit to count. I need this hit to count, and then I need to be able to weather Greyfax's attack long enough to end the game. And this is a level 5 Greyfax, so it should be fairly comfortable to do this, but we will see. So do I have what I need to actually end this game? Comfortably, yes. Um, Not in melee, because I already used my ready. So I did win that, but you can see how it was a bit skin of the teeth, and had that Greyfax been like 1 or 2 levels higher, I wouldn't have been able to pull that out, because Greyfax and the Kulexis had the power to one-shot Farsight. And that's kind of the thing, is he's such a skin of your teeth warlord that makes him really satisfying to play, but he's inconsistent. And there's very little to help you kind of weather the Dark Cells and the stat boosts. And compared to the other Tau warlords like Onva, who if you're just pumping your thing sky high with hit points, he's better against non-psychic decks. But yeah, or Shazo or Darkstrider, like all of the Tau warlords have a lot to offer. And Farsight and Shadow Sun are very old and have just their rules don't do anything. Thematically, I like what they do because Farsight is very much a lead from the front commander who would be there on the front lines, and you feel that in the way he plays. But he's just not competitive, even now. Like the buff is nice, but it's a single shot. Like the ready only triggers when you play your last card. You only get one shot with it. So if you need to use that melee to punch through a final bodyguard, it means you don't have the melee punch to finish off the warlord, especially if it's someone like Angron. Um, I don't really know how I would fix it, but I'm very curious and excited to see what his redesign ends up being. But again, so I do like this deck. I think this guy's a must. This guy's a must. That balance of your heavy ranged, your heavy tar pit that just doesn't die, and then everything else can kind of flex. You want a little taunt. Metagay's good. All of these cards have changed up multiple times recently, but I would say that these two plus whatever makes the most sense for you, thin deck or thick deck, whatever, makes a lot of sense. Could benefit from poison. Could benefit from psionic blast, which Tau doesn't have. Could benefit from barrage, but this is kind of what I ended up going to. And that's really a challenge for Tau on the Dark Cells with the modifier change, not having Psionic Blast or Poison. Those are two of the strongest tools you could have. And Tau has a really good barrage, but that doesn't have the same kind of utility of that passive damage. There's no Tau Warlord that does any sort of passive damage without actively risking your cards whenever you want to do damage. They got a lot of taunt, but that only goes so far if you don't have the offense to back it up. So Tau actually in general is in a bit of a tough space in terms of Dark Cells, but particularly the older commanders. Um, yeah, and I would be curious to hear anyone's thoughts about like your really effective Tau. I don't play them a ton because I don't find them super fun, so I enjoyed the occasion to play Farsight a little bit as one of my old favorite commanders. Next, we're going to go to the buff that's actually been very interesting. And this is particularly interesting because I played this guy last season and got completely wrecked. I did very promptly see how he was not competitive, but Supreme Grandmaster Azrael of the Dark Angels, his rule was essentially doubled. It says each time you select an attack type different from the one you selected in the previous turn, your deployed cards receive a 40% boost to their attack stats. We're just going to go ahead and play this, and then I'll talk about the decks real quick. And it was this one. And that rule already going from 20 to 40% is a huge buff. Like it's huge. And he still has the same problems he had before, where you want mixed attack types. You want a decently full deck because it has to be fairly durable, but then also you want, oh, this is gonna be a brutal matchup. Um, so you want to keep Azrael off the board, especially if he's low level. Oh God. Okay. Good news, it's only a 3 card deck. I want to kill that. Bad news being it's like really scary, especially in the Dark Cells. I weathered that pretty well, actually. And so here, this is where the strategic place comes in, because one of the biggest weaknesses of Azrael is that his trait only triggers after your first turn. So in your first turn, you get no benefit whatsoever. I really don't want to do ranged on these guys ever. And so the next turn, I will get a buff with whatever attack type I didn't use this turn, or either of the attack types didn't use this turn. So I just used melee. So then on this turn, I will get the buff for psychic or ranged. And you want to look at the cards you have left in the deck to get a sense of which thing you're going to do. And I'm going to lose this one. I'm going to get my butt royally kicked on this. I have to get a kill. Really unlikely I'm going to be able to pull that off. But I may play 2 games with Azrael just so you can kind of see it, because you do really feel the stat buff. Ooh, okay. You really feel the trait buff. Like you can see how quickly these guys are building up really scary attack stats. Like this guy's already hitting for 117, and he's only level 7. Um, yeah, it's pretty extraordinary. Can I survive this? I really don't think so. But then Azrael himself is really fragile, and mine's only level 5, but still, like you can see those stats at level 5. He's squishy. He's in big game hunter range. He's very squishy, so we're gonna try this. It is kind of he's actually gonna get that kill over there. This is an awful matchup. And he had anti-infantry, which I don't think I saw it trigger, but it wasn't giving me enough anyway. So you get that kind of strategic rotation where it's every other turn you're planning for your following turn, which is really cool. I actually really enjoy that part. Let's play one of these other decks just to see it, and I'll kind of talk about the philosophy here. Um, so that every other turn thing really weakens it. You need your cards to be durable enough that they stay on the board to get the buff, and also just you need durable enough cards. We may have to reopen combat cards here. Hang on a second. Okay, that was fun. Um, So looking at this, I've got the taunt, I've got shields, I've got 2 cards, or excuse me, 3 cards of shields, I've got fear, I've got the taunt. This is actually like a really strong deck. And I built this one as the one that I really want to do because it's pure Dark Angels. It's really cool. It does all the things. And I think that this guy is going to end up being like a really strong mainstay. Once I get the hit points up here, once I get the range damage up here, having both ranged and melee and barrage at this stat level, like he's going to be incredible. You've got your target acquired and your fear. You've got your inspiring presence and your shields. Like this is a really solid deck that I think if my bodyguards and especially Azrael were higher level, like this is just sad. So if I get him up to like here, he'll actually be a contender. But even here, 225 hit points on a big game hunter target card, like no defensive traits. He's a very challenging warlord to run, even at max. Like he really doesn't offer much. Very impressive in that points range. Uh, but yeah, this is the deck I'm currently doing, and then this is always an interesting one. Let's try this one. But yeah, like I said, strategically he's really fun. And the buff is definitely felt. Like he's been the most competitive of these 3 warlords that I've talked about so far by a mile. Uh, but he still is challenged in the Dark Cells for a lot of the same reasons that the other warlords are in different ways. But the biggest thing for him is just being so level dependent, especially for those stats. Like his stats suck. And that's a big challenge for something so expensive that you really lean on. Then you're stuck. Like you already have the downsides of the trait being slow and alternating. Your cards have to survive on the table multiple rounds, which is challenging enough. But then also you have to have a deck that's durable enough to keep your warlord safe, which is asking a lot in the Dark Cells, especially when your cards are already trying to be that balance between damaged or between powerful enough that they benefit from the rule, but also tough enough that they can take some hits. Because usually you have to sacrifice a little bit offense or defense. Um, But man, with the you really do feel the difference. Like that is crazy. Um, but you could see how both decks that I just ran have significantly different luck and different matchups. Look at this. Like that is crazy, crazy buff. It's like, all right, kill me. Good job. And that was a very different matchup, being up against a low-level warlord uh, with a thin deck. Like that was a pretty easy matchup. So I didn't necessarily earn that one, and I definitely deserved to lose the other game. But we'll get there. I'm going to go ahead and do one game with Malice, just to talk about her real quick. But Azrael, of the buffed warlords, he's actually pretty good now and a lot of fun to deck build with, and a pretty cool challenge to work with. I'd be really curious to hear what other people have done. I did initially have him with the Psionic Blast cards, but I found that they either took too much of the deck in the case of the Blood Angels, Librarian Dreadnought, or were too fragile in the case of the Space Wolf Mule. So I use this guy in here who, if I get a couple more levels on him, like here, he's gonna be significantly better. He's still good, and he builds up crazy amounts of power, and that you still get the utility of the Sonic Blast here at a fraction of the cost. Like he's still really good. This is, I think, the best deck I built with Asriel by a good bit in a long time. But it just got powered down by that Tolman deck. All right, we're going to look at Malice, and then we're going to do some PvP, which is much slower, so I hope you are with me here. And I'll only do one game with each Warlord in PvP so we can see that. And now with Malice, it's been a really interesting experience figuring out what to do here, because she's got the redeploy ability, but it's inconsistent and hard to control. And I think you can really capitalize it by having more poison in the deck. And I just got to max level with this guy, so that max level poison melts down cards so fast. So I really have to make sure he's in there. Other than that, though, I found that it's unreliable to have some of the cheaper cards in there. Like this guy he dies too quickly to really consistently apply poison, and this guy's too expensive. I do really love this deck before the Dark Cells because it's pure Drukhari, very thematic, and just a really cool, fun deck. But I think this one's better because it includes a mix of attack types. I've got the utility of target acquired, taunt, barrage, furious charge, and precision shot. I've got a max level Medicae in here. Interesting, he's got upgrade mark there. Max level Medicae in here, and then a high level shielded card too. So the redeploy does bring your shields back. And that's something I wanted to highlight because some of the really scary individual cards that work well with Malice are your shielded cards, like the Scorpion, the super heavy, like massive big game hunter tank that also is legendary and has big game hunter and shields. This is great with Malice. And she's going first. And now going really hard in your precision shot and your furious charges is a good idea in deck building because it does give you initiative more often than not. So you end up much more likely to go first and get have a card on the board before the first deploy, which helps trigger Malice's trait. And then also give you really strong odds to, and we're going to go ahead and do this, give you strong odds to actually do some initial damage and hit some stuff really hard in the very beginning. Is definitely having some issues with Greyfax. But you can see the combination of target acquired and some additional traits in that poison plus Malice's poison is really, really powerful. And I want Drazar later because he can really mess. Well, Greyfax isn't big game hunter territory anymore, is she? And Malice's automatic poison is really good. I really enjoy that. Uh, but that her trait is so random is very difficult to control. It makes her really, really interesting in PvP, which we'll see in a second, because you're playing against a human who has to figure out like how do I deal with this. Um, let's see. And that human has to figure out who to deploy when and where in a really challenging, like theoretical matchup space. Oh, bummer. And then Greyfax herself is going to pop. And I will say, in ranked, in the competitive ladder, you have really good odds of playing every single one of your. Let's see, I'm going to go here and hope that she does psychic. You have really good odds of triggering every single one of your bounce to hands when you need them, right? So uh, that's been really fun. And really, still trying to figure Malice out because and this is really close. Like having a level 3 Malice, she does hit the board a lot, and I do find that her end game is the weakest part because a lot of it relies on having your cards survive and do enough damage through their redeploy, through their crazy hijinks to get through to the end game. And I really enjoy the utility that she's got because she has so many chances to redeploy and move her cards around. She's really, really good at working with every single target specific trait. So anti-infantry, big game hunter, uh, ranged melee, like choosing your targets and what abilities to use when is a really satisfying piece of her ability. I like that. And it's a little bit more flexible in some ways than Lilith. We'll do it and do a bonus. Because I talked to some other viewers about my Lilith decks. She's been really heavily impacted by some of the trait changes and the meta changes to the game. So Lilith is not the unstoppable monstrosity that she once was, but I still really enjoy playing as her. This is kind of your standard deck. Has a little really high melee, really high ranged, and then taunt, target acquired, Medicae. And then this is a very psychic heavy deck, which has been a fun one to play because these guys do hit really, really hard. And especially heading up to the target cells, they can be very powerful pieces to get you up in the ladder. But this actually is my favorite deck to play with her right now. I found that the utility of outflank is really, really underrated. I was actually very surprised. I expected that to not be quite as powerful, but being able to redeploy an outflank to keep your opponent from building up too heavy of an attack buff while also buffing your own attacks is really good. Like outflank is always good, but having it multiple times, like Baharoth has been amazing. And you may notice that this is maybe the highest number of Phoenix Lords that I've ever put in a single deck, and it's been really fun and satisfying to be able to do that. Like Foy gets really good with Lilith. Um, we won't do this. We'll jump to the PvP because I was really excited about that, but I wanted to talk about those decks real quick. So we're going to do the same order we just did. So we're going to start with the mask. You can see Lilith there a little bit different. This did not work. It gets kind of close, but this guy's too expensive. We'll do the mask. And we'll do this variant of the deck that I was running earlier. So I've got him in there and this guy in here for a target acquired and a Furious Charge Death Blow instead of what I ran in the ladder because I have some extra points. And now the modifier in this PvP event is Aura of Rage. So every turn your cards are on the board, they get +5 to their base melee, which is super good with a heavy melee mask deck. And I found that I wasn't getting enough punch out of the Medicae. So I went ahead and swapped it out, and I just went pure aggression. And it worked pretty well. I haven't played a ton, but I won every game I've played with the mask so far in PvP. But this is a fun one too. I really appreciate the mask getting a buff, because in terms of warlords to play in PvP, it's one of the most interesting because it impacts your opponent's decision making in ways that most don't. And that's cool. I really like that. In this modifier, especially with the level cap that was chosen, it also gives you a really even balance between your common, legendary, and epic cards. Like with the trait reworks recently, where things are shuffled around at like who gets what at what level, and then also the level cap in this PvP event. It's been really fun to kind of rebalance stuff, and it feels much. Hmm, it feels much more interesting to tech for this event. And a lot of the recent PvP events have been like that, where the level cap has made it very different. So it's not just grab all your legendaries or grab all your epics. It's you really have to think about what you're putting in and build for something specific. And that something specific is both the modifier and then it's also the kind of the stuff you're going to see. Now that is going to be, oh, interesting. So he's going to take the death blow here. Like that was a really crazy order of operations roll to see like what happened when. But that was a wipe, and I got Felthus down to 1 life. And now he's got to figure out how he's going to deploy. He's playing a heavy melee deck against a deck that's going to hit him back. And I think both of these guys would previously have been out of the realm where they attack back first. Now, whether this matters for me or not is going to depend on how much Furious Charge he's got in there. Because Furious, yep, there it is. Okay. Because Furious Charge could comfortably take out my advantage of attacking first because he can turn this off if he can do enough damage on that Furious Charge. Hmm. Maybe. It's not full damage, and he's hit with fear, so that was enough to turn off the attack back. Okay. But if he does melee, these two die before he attacks. Yeah, he doesn't die, but really close. He did it. Okay. He will die. Which gives me a pretty significant edge here. What else has he got? What else have I got? Okay. And I can cheese this a little bit. So I'm going to pull out Skull Taker and then get Karn's really buffed up a death blow on him. And then I do still have a couple cards in the deck. And again, that's one of the biggest advantages of the mask is it's cheap. So you can really cram that deck with some of your most powerful cards. There still is definitely some strategy to playing, especially in PvP, but I love the utility. And it really does play well to Chaos's strengths, and having it be a Chaos Mirror match was a really appropriate match to show. This is cool. I'm glad I saw this one. Excuse me. He's still got some really tough decision making going on, and I almost certainly will take down. Oh, yeah. Well, especially if I'm going to poison him first. We'll do this. And we're going to kind of cheese this a little bit. I feel kind of bad doing that, but I do want to win too. And the mask can comfortably finish this one off, but there were some moments in this game where I was a little bit nervous. He did a lot of melee when I think maybe it wasn't the best idea. Or he could have done ranged, like stalled things a little bit, but because here his only option is to go melee, and I'm going to kill him before he gets a chance to hit me. Which you may choose to do anyway. Yep, he did. Splat, splat. So you can definitely see the mask's rule does trigger, but you can picture all the different matchups that could have been where it wouldn't have triggered or wouldn't have been impactful. That was a good game. I'm glad I showed that one. But yeah, so Mask is good, really fun to play, especially if that's kind of your style. And I really enjoyed building decks was just like, you know what, all I want to do is bring my most powerful cards and just jam them in here. It was nice to be able to do that. And now, if I recall, I actually won my one game with Farsight in PvP too, which just was mind blowing. Well, let's see if I can get there again. The Warlord I lost with was unfortunately Lilith. I think I won all my others. Where are you, buddy? There you are. And I went with a pretty heavy fruit deck, and I couldn't figure out what to do with my last 6 points. Let's take another look at this. We're at 16. And this is just kind of, there's a lot of balance cards in here. I didn't put much theme in this, except I sorted by max melee and just wanted a full deck. I wanted a nice full deck. Let's see, 16. Do have him. Is the melee ready? That's good. Do that. We'll see how it goes. Now, Farsight again being most interesting for the strategy of playing him. He's just a very weird character. And we're almost done. If you're still with me, I applaud you. I appreciate it. But yeah, it's been a really interesting season to play these characters. I haven't felt the like runaway momentum of the last seasons. Like I didn't do Angron, I didn't do Spring Fermented Drago. Next season I'll be doing, or this season I'll be doing Mortarion. But it was really cool to try these like very challenging warlords and see what I could do with the decks. And of them, I do think the Mask is probably the most powerful deck that I have. But I think that Azrael is by far the most improved of the different warlords by a good bit. He doesn't know what to do against Farsight. Seen a lot of gobos. It was fun that everybody got the gobos. There was the big event where everyone got gobos. It was very, very exciting. And you see them a lot now, and they're really strong orc cards. And they fit the theme of orcs. Where are we going to deploy next? And a lot of this has been strategic. One of the fun things about playing Farsight as he plays, and one of the things about a lot of these warlords that I really enjoy, is they encourage you to play the faction differently. And the cards also kind of emphasize that too, where you're playing stuff that you normally wouldn't in ways you normally wouldn't if you're playing Tau. It's like you play Tau, you play a Tau Gunline, you play, Dark Strider. Or Shazzo if you're cool like that. Um, which just makes sense. It's what you do. That's kind of the most powerful option. But I really appreciate having competitive options that are different, like totally different styles. Not only does that make the game a little bit more exciting, certainly less predictable, but also it does, well, that's mostly it. It makes the game less predictable and just a little bit more exciting in its own way. This is going to be a tough matchup. I'm hoping this is one I'm able to. I might just get completely stomped on this. And I will say that when I played against Zagstruck in these PvP events, yeah, that sucks. Uh, when I played against Zagstruck in these PvP events, it's been fun, and I knew that I was going to lose that guy on the right before I took out this guy, which is a bummer, but that's okay. Um, because Zagstruck does not have your readies. So if you would get debuffed by something, you don't because Zagstruck doesn't ready. So when he does those psychic moves, he's getting the free attacks on me, but he's not getting the debuff. So that's especially important if I get Farsight on the board and he wants to get rid of my melee buff, he won't be able to because these cards don't ready, they attack instead. And it was funny because I did a Zack Struck and then I played against the Silent King, and it was such an opposite experience because of that exact thing. Okay, what do we got next? He's played a lot of sort of medium cost cards, so there may not be a whole lot much in there. Well, he played a bunch of cheap stuff. This guy's really cheap. This guy's the only one that really costs anything, and the others were like at or below 10 points. And he's definitely traded up, so I have lost much more expensive cards. Do we do the dumb thing not knowing what's in there? I almost played Farsight, and that's what always gets you is you're always tempted like, can I get away with playing Farsight now? And that actually is one of the things that probably impacts his win rate the most is how tempting it is to play him too soon. You're infantry, aren't you? Yeah, I'm gonna regret that. Yeah, or he's gonna do that. That was a mistake, but sure. He still comfortably got me because I don't know what else is in there. It's probably nothing too scary, but I don't have much else to answer this. And if that guy can one-shot this, then that severely limits my options. So I guess we're doing it. Doing it live. And Farsight is infantry too, yeah. Okay, so I need to kill that. Fortunately, we will. But now I'm gonna get a big heal here. So I really enjoy that is one of those secret tips to Farsight is you can play him, smack stuff around, and then drop something to heal and get his actual melee buff because he can kill some weaker cards comfortably without that. Excuse me. Mm, that sucks. And I could tweak this deck a bit. I wanted to play kind of an unusual one, and I think I touched on this earlier, where I was talking about playing the factions at different styles that are unexpected, and that's especially satisfying in PvP because you're playing against opponents who have a set idea of how these warlords work, and if you're playing against something crazy, they don't know what to do with it either. Oof. Even if I kill this thing, I'm going to take so much in death blow that I probably will die anyway. Yeah, Zag is going to comfortably beat me. And that's a challenge with Farsight, is he still doesn't have any defensive traits, and he's still fragile enough that his end game is paper thin. But again, really satisfying, cool thematic feel, fits that like samurai motif, like the honorable battle, but you're going to lose games. And he's got this ready. Zagstruck himself already hits 82, yeah. So he's actually, it is not possible for him not to kill me because he has lethal melee damage base. So, well done, Farsight, but good try. The next up, we'll try Asriel. We'll see what deck I built here. And the last game I built with, or the last PvP game I played with Asriel was just an absolute stomping. The other guy played well, but it was just like he had a choice of which card to make sure died. Which of two bodyguards? It was Agatone or a shielded guy, and he chose to take out the shielded guy, and Agatone ended the game hitting for like 400 in melee. So this is the deck I built for this one. Same kind of principles. Belial's very good in an Azrael deck, which I really like. Agatone, I think, is one of the best cards to put in there. Got my Psionic Blast utility, double taunt, um, target acquired, extra shields, and then just a kind of filler piece. And these are 225 point decks, so they don't work for your ladder. You'd have to take at least one of these cards out. So the double taunt definitely makes a difference. And this one has just a little bit of psychic, but it's still usually worth doing the psychic to prep for your following turn, especially if your opponent doesn't have psychic. If you get a favorable matchup with Azrael, where like you're up against a pure melee deck that has no ranged, and you can blink up a little bit here and there while building up your power moves, that's pretty great. But that is again matchup dependent. And you have to have a deck that can take advantage of that. Or if you have a pure melee deck that doesn't have ranged either, it doesn't do you any good. And let's see if he even deploys. And that's another really satisfying piece about playing these warlords, especially in PvP, is if your opponent doesn't know what to expect, they don't know how to play around it, they don't know what's going on, it can make for a really exciting or interesting matchup because you both are like, oh, oh, oh. Um, yeah, and Warhammer Combat Cards has gotten big enough and varied enough that you run. It's rare to see the same thing twice, which is pretty new because when the game first came out, it was pretty common to see a very limited pool of warlords and deck choices and bodyguards, and I really appreciate how complex it's actually grown. It's been really satisfying to be playing it through this whole time. Yuck. And this is one thing that really sucks, where I'm not going to get any kind of benefit from my attack back. Going second with Azrael is one of the worst things, because then it's a full 2 rounds of combat before your trait triggers at all. Um, we will see how this goes. That's a lot of death blow. That is a lot of death blow. Now, the Aura of Rage works out a little bit because you still get some benefit to the card still being on the board, but not enough to really make up for the loss. Make up for the loss of, or the wait of waiting like 2 or 3 turns for your trade to even trigger. Man, this guy's going slow. Or that might be my connection. But so just thinking, I'm thinking out loud what I'm going to do here. So I put Belial out there to go ahead and make sure that he's building up some of this stuff. I've got the Taunt out there to give me a little bit more time. He should absolutely not be saving any. He should not be stalling because that really plays into what I need here. He doesn't necessarily know that, and he's got a pretty significant advantage with these cards. He's got a lot of points showing, but there's plenty more points left in that deck, even with 5 other bodyguards. I don't know if he's waiting to just one-shot me. That's one of the tricks with Azrael is you build decks that start out kind of weak. There's not really a good way to build the decks that don't start out a little bit kind of like meh. And then they get better, of course, but you have to get there and survive long enough to get there and then hope that your momentum holds until you get to the end game. And Belial's limited shields are always a problem here. And this is the thing. Once I get Azrael to really high level, he's going to be really good. Like, if you look at that Dark Angels deck I put together with, like, max level cards in the ranked ladder, like, it's a really phenomenal deck. And I'm really excited to get there at some point, someday. What's this guy doing? What's he doing? What's he waiting for? Does he want to see this? I want to see what the deck does? I don't know what he's doing. It does look like I may actually have more of an edge than I thought. Oh, man, that hurt. That was a lot of death blow. And he's got the ready. He could kill me here, and then that would give up most of his advantage, and he doesn't know what else I have in the deck. I think he will live this turn because it was an on deploy kill. No, man. Oof. Now I want to keep Agatome alive because he's incredible in these decks. So I have to keep him away from Ragnar, whether I kill Ragnar or not. That is one thing about Death Blows. Death Blow ignores taunt. It's going to hit whatever's across from it no matter what. And this is one of those things I really enjoy about PvP is you have that level of like, and also the human player just behaves very differently than the AI players do, which is really, it's a good time. And this is where it would have been nice to have Medicaid, but I do have the extra taunt, which he may not be expecting. But even so, if I kill this guy accidentally next turn, I think Adrax will still take enough damage for it not to matter. Meaning that he will die from the death blow of whatever's across from him. We'll see. Sorry, folks. And you can really quickly see how powerful Psionic Blast will be here, but deck building with Psionic Blast is really kind of challenging. I could probably do it in this, but I don't know if the level of my Dreadnought is going to be worth it. It'd be like this, right? So to have rank 3 Psionic Blast and a single level of regen, which is pretty good. And on my turn, these are going to die. Which will that kill Adrax? Nice. So I'm going to. This is really unfortunate too, is that there are turns where you have to actually give up your Azrael trait buff, where you're like, you do not want to do the buffed attack. Like that kept Adrax alive. If I had done any other attack type, this guy would have died, and Adrax would have He would have lived. But then whatever he deploys will kill him, which it may do it anyway. But 187, yuck. Rank 1 death blow, but still. That's crazy. That's a crazy amount of death blow in that Akarat deck. It's not a good way around it. That was a smart build. Ooh. If he shoots me, I wonder, can I keep Adrax alive? Not like that. This is where I have to get really tricky because when this guy goes off, he's going to kill whatever's across from him. I have one card in my deck that can tank it, but I want to keep this guy alive if at all possible. Hey, so I'm going to do this and this. $235 Jason. So I think this guy will actually live. Called it. By some insane miracle. Alright, let's do it. And that death blow killed both of them, so now it's just Azrael and Akaran. So Azrael is going to get his butt kicked by the triple shielded Akaran. Ugh. Alright. And that's a bad matchup, being a really melee heavy Akaran, so he gets the extra life. So that's a really tough one, but you're gonna hit that PvP, so you have to be prepared for that. Any warlord that can't beat a fairly stout Akaran deck is not going to do well in PvP. Okay, after this one, we're going to play a game of Malice, and we'll see if I can pull this win out. I do think that our Azrael is competitive now, but he's still a very challenging warlord. He's a more interesting warlord, but yeah, I want to say this is 3 games with Azrael, and it's been 1 and 2. And the matchups weren't great, but we're talking about like a lot of different stuff I went up against. Interesting. Why would you do that? And there, anti-infantry may actually save me, but I don't think so. I think he has the oomph to punch right through Azrael's stuff. The way this guy ends games, wow, God, Octavian. It is pretty fun playing Azrael now post-buff just to see how staggeringly high you can get your attack stats in the end game, even if you lose. Yeah, hands down. The Instead X is super good. So I probably need to take that back to the drawing board and figure out some better decks. Um, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Last one, and then I'll stop. This has been long enough. I don't want to keep going all night. But I wanted to make sure to read the documents and show off these warlords both in ranked, where I've been playing them a fair bit, and then also in PvP. Because getting to play these warlords in PvP, especially be able to record it, is a rare treat. And here you get to see a very frightening Malice. And I talked about this. This is just a sneaky, nasty deck. Against Angron. Wow. Okay. Now, this is a case where the redeploys will really, really help. And this card is so good. Mine is really low level, so I'm glad to get a chance to run it in the game right here. For 12 points, like my God. Especially with that Aura of Rage. Oof. Yeah. He's insane in an Avatar deck. And I'd love to see a card that has a balance of balanced attack stats, um, reasonable card cost, like being pretty cheap, and then is also pretty durable. Especially with shields, like unless you really hit that guy hard, it's very hard to remove him. Let's see. I don't want to drop the Scorpion yet, because I don't want him to know that that's in there. And that's one of the really exciting things about PvP is getting to play that level of mind game where like this guy has no idea
that that's in this deck. And he's not gonna know it either. Let's see, because Fierce Charge is triggered before the precision shot, or before the target acquired. We'll do that. We'll live this shield to save that guy from the precision shot. Not precision shot. Target acquired. God, what am I doing? Man, Angron with Aura of Rage seems pretty good. In some ways, that target acquired really let me kind of save my stuff, though, and gave me some breathing room to make a dent in this deck before it really gets completely off the rails, which it may already be. Angron Deathblow also is like totally nuts. Okay, through this. And this is the thing where it's unreliable, but if you're deploying second, your opponent cannot avoid the bounce. So they have to figure out what they're going to bounce, and the card they're playing is going to get poisoned. And that's pretty exciting. Pretty exciting. Sucks for the opponent, but that's one of those things that makes Malice like a really interesting warlord. That she's very good at poisoning stuff, so stuff is going to take free damage. Let's take this guy down before he gets too crazy. And that guy's gonna die too. So again, we're gonna get a bounce. We have 3 more. This guy's gonna die before he gets to do very much, which is not great in this modifier. And he doesn't want to bounce, probably this guy, but he doesn't want to bounce these guys either because they can refresh their shields. Hmm. All right. And note, I still haven't played the Scorpion at all. So we'll see if I'm actually able to pull this out. But this has gone considerably better than I expected for a Angron matchup. And it helps that Angron is so expensive, but yeah, it'll be a bummer to lose that. I still have 6 cards in my deck, dang. But I've used all my redeploys. Right? No, I still have 1 redeploy, so Mogan Ra will go back to hand. And Angron himself has Furious Charge. So, whoops. So I managed to keep that in my deck for this entire game. Guarantee a bounce, guarantee it poisons Angron, and potentially I'm able to knock his first life off in one go. And that's really, really big. And not quite, but really effing close. So I've got him comfortably here. And that, like, absolute coup of an endgame is the best I could possibly have expected against Angron. Getting to hit him with a slightly readied this thing with Big Game Hunter, like, really completely changes the math. So you can see just how terrifying Malice is with this deck, because I was able to just go up to an Angron, a Supreme Commander Angron deck, and beat it with 4 cards still in the deck. Like that's crazy. There are no rights that there's no way I should have expected that. Like I really expected to get my butt kicked there, but that was a very decisive stomping. Um, yeah, and there we go. So we can, if you're still with me, we can do one more game with Azrael and see if we can do a little bit better because he's one of the ones I think was the least satisfying of what I showed. And let's try something a little different. And we got a freeze here. So just sort of thinking about what I'm going to do with this. So I want to do Azrael for the PvP event. Thinking about what I've seen, I think that a Death Blow focus is really good. I think we saw that do very well a couple times. I do still want some shields, but we're going to go ahead and filter by melee and see what comes up. Because one of the reasons I like doing this is you can see sort of your budget pieces. So
yes, obviously your high cost cards are going to be the highest, but then you've got things like this guy that will jump out as very efficient. And you've got things like this one that will have high level regen. And he's level 10. We'll go ahead and try him, see how many points that gives us in our deck. And I'm having to look at this to see so it'll be level 9. Because when you look at this, the preview doesn't show you what level 9 looks like. It shows your current card level. So that's level 9. It's pretty good. Furious Charge and Precision Shot. Hello. It's not, no, I'm sorry. Furious Charge and Target Acquired. Oh yeah, you're really good. And you're obviously really good. And now we need to add some utility. So that's really heavy melee. I need some taunt. I need some Medicae. Sid, ooh, I can't not bring him. Um, level 7. What do you have at level 7? That's the same level I have. Okay. It's pretty good. I don't know how much big game hunter we're gonna run into. Do I have the Sanguinor? Oh, I do have the Sanguinor. Where are you, buddy? He. The Sanguinor is insane. Um, Deadshot that you can use. Like his melee is really good, his hits points are really good. He has taunt, but then Deadshot is something you can use to target the opponent's Warlord and then also target any individual card in the game. Like the utility on that is so crazy. Comfortably one of my favorite card combos in the game. I really love to see that guy. So we'll throw Medicae in here, and then we still have 25 for a taunt. So we'll go ahead and do the taunt. Well, let's see. We'll do the cheap taunt and see what else we have. So we have 11. Thinking through what we're going to do here. Let's throw in an outflank. And he's a Dark Angel to boot. Perfect. Okay. Now I don't have the really big utility pieces I need to take down shields or to take down Acheron live, so I have to hope that whatever I go up against is not Acheron. And it's really heavily melee, so I also hope that my melee play is going to be competitive, strong enough to actually stand up to that. Mask. Okay. Interesting. And here the death blow is going to work in my favor, but I still have to be very concerned about what is in that deck. And if there's a bunch of psychic in there, I'm in trouble. Dun, dun, dun. And this will be my last game, then I'm going to bed. Let's go and go here. Oh, it's so many cards. Okay. Oh god, it's all Deathblow. Alright. It's not all Deathblow. Only one of those is Deathblow. Ulim is a really good card, especially when you get him to high level. Mine is really low level, so I don't use him, but I'm excited to use him more. It's the combination of the melee ready with those hit points at that cost with that base melee and Deathblow is just, oof, it's really good. We like that. Let's do that. Now, my strategy here is going to be to try to pick apart the flanking cards. So this guy does not scare me. I can kill it and move all the other cards around. And I can do that on my turn. We'll see what he hits me with, though. If he does melee, I'll have to reconsider, and he did. It's an interesting choice. He really should have readied, but sure, whatever. Let's see, I want to keep Ragnar alive as long as possible. That was not a good trade. The amount of stuff I had to do to take down an 8-point card, not great. So I do have some shields in here, I think. I know I talked about it. I don't remember if I actually did the shields. Sorry. Woof. Okay. I really want to take that guy down. And he's got 126. They will all hit first.
kind of regret that. But that does mean my next melee turn is going to be crazy. And it better be. Now, he's played a lot of expensive cards, though, so it must be mostly cheap stuff left in there. And that was just a wipe. Gives me a huge edge. Well, except mask. Ooh, man, I'm playing against the mask now. I know this event really favors the mask because it is very much melee centric. So you're very likely to get opponents who are playing the same attack type that you are, which you can play around. So the mask is actually the hub. Jeez, okay. He's comfortably got me on this one. Now, the only way I can pull this out is if this is not lethal on that first charge. Okay. So we'll do this. We'll do this. Because I've still charged up a really powerful melee. And this level of Azrael can comfortably take down the mask. I have to get through this guy and get the mask on the board without taking too many casualties. Hopefully no casualties, but we'll see. God, what a card. Nice, okay. Oh, that was pretty good. And so I have a really powerful melee built up. So I may be able to pull this out. It depends a whole lot on what this last card is. And he knows it. Oh, okay. All right, so I have the ready, and I believe me. Yeah, okay. And so that's the thing. Like, you have to plan ahead, several turns ahead. Is this infantry? Yes. I think I will be able to kill that between anti-infantry and my hit. I will be losing one of my cards, but he'll still do the damage I need him to. Ouch. Yeah, comfortably got that. And now what is the mask hit with? 73. No anti-infantry. This is really going to hinge on whether or not the mask has enough inspiring presence to kill me. 20% of 73. I don't think so. I think I may barely be able to pull this out. Oh, jeez. Yeah, okay. Nice. Okay. Very impressive. If I read that correctly, he had exactly lethal damage on me. That player did. Oh my God. Okay. Oof. We're gonna call it. But there you go. That was a good time. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on these. I'm really excited to see Mortarion, our final Demon Primarch. And that is the end of the Malice season. Cheers.